area of which we're concerned about, the giving, the funders. As you may well aware, there has been a great deal of frustration with regards to police brutality in this country and racism and other areas that need to be dealt with within the communities. Well, out of this, and it's unfortunate that it had to happen to this young man in situations with regards to the death of African American men in the hands of police officers. But at least it's getting the funders, the government, the corporations, the charitable foundations, at least they're beginning to address the issue by funneling funds down to various programs to deal with the problem. So what we want to talk about, and that is these entities that are funding the programs. We need them to continue to fund them. They're perhaps not giving enough, but at least they're starting. But we have been talking about this for the last year and a half with our weekly talks, and that is understanding that service programs that service the problems of the community and those in need are opposite to prevention programs. Programs designed to prevent the problems or the processes that create the poverty or create the problem. Unfortunately, they, at least on a large scale, have not been sensitive to this issue. Now, the best way I can explain it is using the example of Greater Detroit Community Outreach Center, of which I'm a part of for the past 40 years, 76, so that's over 4 decades. Our program is designed and set up to prevent the first teen parenthood among school-age youth living in and around the city of Detroit. There are other programs designed to prevent second and further pregnancies, and they are service programs. Now here's the distinct difference. With our program, we do not reference the teen parents who are already teen parents. We don't use them as a reference point. Our reference point is in the homes with the parents and the children together. You see, these are two different reference points. So what happens is in our program, we're saying that in each home that we go into, there's a different view of this area of sex education and prevention, and each home has its own unique thought about it. By going into the homes one-on-one, we're able to captivate the respective views of each home. So when we talk about prevention, we're talking about this child about preventing teen parenthood, but we're not referencing those kids who are already pregnant. We're not doing that. So what we're saying is these are opposite views. Opposite says one says service and we're going to prevent the second one. The other says no, we're going to prevent the first one. Now it holds true. It doesn't have to be prevention of teenage pregnancies. It can be prevention of police brutality, prevention of homelessness. But you have to understand that if a program says it's set up to serve, you can't turn around and say, well, I can prevent. Prevention is opposite to service. For example, we want to prevent police brutality through the prevention of chokeholds and other means of prevention. But we first have to service this problem. How? By making sure these people are arrested, prosecuted, and then as a result, now we can work on prevention. Well, perhaps that autonomous work by itself prevention program say, well no, I think what we should do is deal with the problems within the concepts of working with the community to ensure that we set up a program in the community that deals with this issue of police brutality. Now, the service program says one thing, the prevention program says another. Well, in most cases, now this is very important, in most cases, the person or the program that gets the money is generally the lead or agency in terms of where we're going to take the prevention and service mechanism. So, if you understand what we're saying here, one service, one prevention, who has the money? You see? So, as a funder, and we're talking to the funders, you have to look at who you're funding. If it's prevention or if it's service. Now, we have proposed, and we will continue to propose, a prevention component that says fund both. You know, it's not who, it's how. Fund both. Allow both of them to work together to create a holistic service. One where it's accountable to you, the funder, to the community, and to the community at large. You see? And in so doing, you've created a new program. You don't know what kind of program is coming out of it, but you know one has its autonomous view, the other has another view. Service, prevention. Now we got to come together and make a holistic program, one that services not only the community, but the funders as well. You think that perhaps this is a small issue, but it's one we've been fighting for over 40 years. Understanding that this prevention program, like Greater Detroit, that is going into the homes, working with the parents, has its own view as to how we're going to prevent this. It doesn't take away from those programs that are working with prevention of second and further, but we have a unique or different perspective on how to prevent the first. So that's one fundamental error that most funders make. They simply give to the biggest program. We're bigger, we're better, and we can do the same thing that the other prevention programs can do. No. Serious error. And it takes 20, 30, or another major confrontation before we sit down and say, well, the service program, they say they were going to prevent, but they're not set up for that. You see? We got an opportunity here. An opportunity to capitalize on the mistakes that have been made year after year after year. Simply funding the program because it's bigger, simply funding the program because it's been there longer, but not understanding that the processes of which they work are opposite to those that prevent the problem. And as a funder, government, when you take our taxes, you take your taxes, and spend it and say, well, we service in all these programs, all these people, and somehow you have totally omitted the prevention aspect, then what you have done is simply service the problem. You haven't made any inroads and prevented it. You see? Corporate, charitable foundations who spend millions and billions on dealing with this problem through service. But the mom and pop agency who can get into the homes, who can get right there to the community, who can touch base with the community, yeah. Well, they don't get that kind of funding. Actually, they don't even get that kind of recognition. So, as we talk today, and hopefully you'll understand this one area, as a funder, as a supporter, as a philanthropic person who wants to help in this problem, once you understand that one aspect, you've done more for the poor and prevention of the problem than you can ever begin to understand. Because your knowledge is power. And then you have the money to give out. Oh, you can do more for the public and the community than you can even begin to understand. because we will never again look at this from one perspective. We understand that there's a holistic approach, something that we should be doing. And remember, it's not who you find, it's how. Again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Creighton Rippey. I'm the director of the Greater Detroit Community Outreach Center here in Detroit, Michigan. You can reach us at 313-891-7030, or you can look us up on the World Wide Web at greaterdetroitoutreach.org. Thank you for looking in.